How do you connect your amplifier to your speakers? First, you need to know what your amplifier does. In simple terms, an amplifier is a device that increases the power or the level of an input signal. In this case, the amplifier will increase the signal coming from the mixer and make it strong enough to power and be replicated on the speakers. In other words, you cannot connect your mixer directly to your speakers because the signal coming from the mixer is very low and cannot power a speaker to function. However, some speakers do have amplifiers built inside of them. Those kind of speakers are called active speakers. If that's the kind of speaker you have, then you don't need a dedicated amplifier. Just connect directly from your mixer into your speakers and you're going to hear the sound coming from the mixer. But if you are running a dedicated amplifier with passive speakers, that is speakers that don't have amplifiers built within them, then this is the way you go about it. When you check the back of your amplifier, basically there are three sections or three parts you will discover. There's the input section, there's the output section, then we have a middle section where you can select the different modes. This mode tells you the kind of relationship that exists between the input section and the output section of the amplifier. Now the input section is where you send the signal coming from your mixer into the amplifier. In other words, whatever comes into the input section is what is amplified to the speakers through the output section. Usually the connection is done using a TRS or an XLR cable. On this amplifier there are both options, that is you can either use the jack cable, which is the TRS cable, or the XLR cable, but you should only use one of them for each of the channel. On the output section of this particular amplifier, there are two ways you can connect to your speaker, and this is usually the case with most amplifiers. You can connect using speak-on connectors and you can connect using bare wires, but just ensure that you get the polarity right. Let the positive terminal on the amplifier correspond with the positive terminal on the speakers. Now come down to the middle section, which is where you select the different modes. There are three basic modes that amplifiers can operate. There is parallel mode, there is stereo mode, and there is bridged mode. Now let's start with the parallel mode. On parallel mode, only one channel of the input section will receive signal. That is if you have a two-channel amplifier. On most amps, that will be the first channel, but confirm with your manufacturer to be sure which one works for you. So basically, the amplifier takes the signal from the first channel input and splits it internally to each of the channels. Now to connect the speaker to the amp using the binding post, be mindful of the polarity. The negative on the amplifier must correspond to the negative on the speaker, and the positive on the amplifier must correspond to the positive on the speaker. Now if you want to use speak-on connectors, on this amplifier it is stated that for channel A, you connect using +2 and -2, but for channel B, you connect using +1 and -1. On stereo mode, you have the ability to control the two channels independently. Now how does this benefit you? Now if you have a stereo mix, that is you have slightly different inputs going through the left channel and the right channel of your mix, you can use the signal coming from the main left on your mixer and bring it to the first channel on your amplifier, and then use the signal coming from the main right of your mixer to the second channel on your amplifier. It can also be useful to split your monitor speakers from your main speakers. That is, you can dedicate the first channel to your main speakers, which is the front of house speakers, so the signal comes from the main out of your mixer to the first channel of your amplifier, and the other signal comes from the monitor out of your mixer or the auxiliary out of your mixer into the second channel of the amplifier. Then you connect the main speakers to the output of the first channel and connect the monitor speakers to the output of the second channel on the amplifier. Now for stereo mode, the cable connection with the speak-on or the binder post is the same as in the parallel mode. Now on bridged mode, what you do basically is to connect the strength of the individual channels on the amplifier to become one strong channel. So on bridged mono mode, you get double the power from your amplifier. Sometimes you can get more than double depending on the limit of your amplifier. You can consult your manufacturer to be sure of what to expect when you use bridged mode. Now how do you connect in bridged mono mode? You need to be careful when connecting your amp to your speakers in this mode, because incorrect connections can lead to severe damage. In bridged mono mode, we make use of the positive terminals of both channel amps. So the positive of the first channel is going to act as the positive, while the positive of the other channel is going to act as the negative. Most times this information is written at the back of the amplifier, or you can consult your manufacturer manual in case yours is not written there. On this amplifier, if we were to use the binding post, the positive side will be the positive signal of the first channel and the negative signal will be the positive side of the second channel. So if we were to use a speak-on connector, we'll have to connect the positive to the +2 on the speak-on and the negative to the +1 of the same speaker. Another thing you have to be mindful of is to ensure that the speakers you're connecting to does not exceed the maximum load the amplifier is designed to carry. So check your manufacturer manual just to be double sure. Thank you for staying to the end of this tutorial. I believe you've learned one thing or the other, and I hope you are going to be able to implement some of the things you learned in your church sound system. In case you have not subscribed to this channel, you can do so now. Click the like button and share with your friends. On this channel, we train media volunteers to become well equipped for serving God in the media. So if you haven't subscribed, consider doing so now. Until we meet again next time, God bless.